everyone, and welcome back to the YouTube channel. Today and tomorrow I am making homemade apple butter. Now I've made apple butter in a couple different ways over the years, with the skins on, just like I do my applesauce, on the stovetop in a big heavy bottom pot, let it simmer all day long. I have things to do and I don't want to have to leave that stove unattended. We have little kids in the house and I'd rather just be here. I've already been in the kitchen the entire day today. It's 5:30 at night. It has been just a huge long rain day. We picked apples, we did farm chores, I've been peeling apples, we did homemade cheese. My pot for doing homemade cheese will do 2.5 gallons at a time, so I did 2 batches of homemade cheese. My second batch is on the stove finishing right now. Then it's going to be time to make dinner, time to clean up and get ready for bed. So this method of doing apple butter will save you hours and hours of standing at the stove babysitting it. Now, if you don't want to peel your apples, you can just chop your apples, core them, and put them in the crock pot and then run them through the food mill after they're soft, or run them on the stovetop for a quick cook and then put them in the food mill, then the crock pot. As you can see, I've already loaded my crock pot. I have the largest crock pot that I could find. I don't even remember how big it is, but it's supposed to do like a full-size beef roast, and I can fit about a 10-pound turkey in it. That tells you how large it is. So what I've done, the normal recipes are all like 4, 5, 6 pounds of apples, or like 12 whole apples. We can't count our apples out, 12 apples, because they are all different sizes from our apple trees. They're all different sizes. We have a variety of different trees. We don't know what they all are, but we know which ones make good applesauce and which ones hold together for pies. So I've got this all loaded up. Now these apples are going to release their own juice, so we're not going to add any additional liquid to this crock pot, because basically the crock pot is going to soften and cook your apples, and at the same time we are going to be flavoring it with all of our goodness. Now most recipes are cloves and allspice. Some have cinnamon, and most have white sugar or brown sugar. I don't like to use either of that. We are going to be using our maple syrup from our own farm. And like I said, we are doubling my recipe here. So we want about 4 cups total. Now I'm layering my ingredients, so I've already done this once. And if I need to sweeten it more later on, I can. We are kind of sugar conscious in our family to how much our kids are having and how much we're having. We want to sweeten it. We don't need to make it totally sugar. So now I want to add 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, a 1/4 teaspoon of allspice, and a 1/2 teaspoon of cloves. Now I happened to think of this because I was near the peanut butter in the store and saw the apple butter a day or 2 ago. It is $7 for a large jar of apple butter. It's roughly 1.5 quarts. That's a lot of money. A jar of unsweetened applesauce in our area used to cost about $5 before I started buying it. I'm not sure what that is running nowadays. If you want to cut corners, you can just start with applesauce, either your homemade applesauce, a couple quarts of that, fill up your jar, add your sweetener and add your spices, and that will reduce a lot of the cooking time. So now I can put the lid on this and I can come back and check it in the morning. So I've had it on high to get it going, but I want to make sure that this finishes in the morning, not during the night. These newer crock pots seem to run a lot hotter in the thermostat than my older one that I even bought 5 years ago. So keep that in mind. You want to adjust your temperature for how hot your crock pot runs. My old like soup crock pot, that thing could run for 8 hours and it's fine. This one gets so hot it gets the countertop hot. So make sure you have it in a safe place that you can leave it. And we're going to let this run for 8 to 10 hours on low. Now I'll give you a little tip that you're going to need some biscuits or homemade bread or some fresh ice cream to serve this on as soon as it's made, because the family is going to have a mouth-watering experience when they wake up in the morning, and we're going to have something going for them. So I'm making up a batch of my homemade baking soda biscuits. Little secret recipe here is to add a little bit of my fresh mayonnaise to it, and I even add a teaspoon or two of yeast to it to make them a little lighter and a little more airy than your typical mom's old-fashioned baking soda biscuits. Just look at how nice those biscuits turned out. The family is going to have a great breakfast. I could just serve up some eggs or a side of bacon with this, and everyone's tummies will be happy. Okay, so my mixture has cooked down overnight and it was reduced by more than half. However, since my recipe wasn't entirely doubled, the cinnamon flavor was too strong. You can correct any flavoring flaws if you oversweetened it or over cinnamon or clove by adding applesauce. Now I have applesauce that I've already made from this year, so I added 2 quart jars of applesauce. But remember, applesauce, apples, high water content. Now, last night, I mashed down with my apples with my potato masher. And then let me show you what I did this morning. So I wake up a couple hours generally before my husband and my kids, and I try to be as quiet in the kitchen as possible. So I used that time to get my canning setup ready. So I took care of milking the cow. I've got some zucchinis to process. They're never ending. So I've got my counter set up with lids and bands for 2 batches and used my morning time to wash my canning jars that I'm going to be using, set up a pot for lids and bands to pour scalding water over it. And since I added more applesauce to my pot, I'll have to heat that up when the time comes. And I have my water bath canner set up with what's going to be my first batch of jars. When it's time, I'll turn this on. They're all filled about half or more with water, and your water bath canner has to cover your jars at least 1 inch. I say 2 inches is always good because of steam or water loss, to make sure that you don't run low and have that processed. And while the family was asleep, I needed to blend my apples into smaller bits. And I have this old-fashioned hand mixer. This is what my mom used to use before we ever had a hand mixer. And it's pretty quiet. Now, if you have an immersion blender, that is a great thing to do. I don't have one, and I keep finding needs for one and talking myself out of it because I have already my food processor. Now, in the past, I've done my applesauce straight to the food processor, but the hot contents aren't really good for this plastic. It's better to just go ahead and use your glass containered blender for chopping that up into smaller bits. This worked really great. Then I don't get too small of like applesauce. It's kind of a mix between a chunky and a smooth. So to let the moisture out of the crock pot, you see I've got these wooden spoons sideways over the top, and I'm just showing you. See, it's not too thin. I don't really want applesauce, super smooth applesauce, because that just makes for soggy biscuits. I actually had this on one this morning, toasted in the toaster, and it was fantastic. So I can still see there's a layer of water from adding the applesauce. We're going to let this cook down on low today. And like I said, busy days, lots of things going on. And we're just going to let this do it this way. So you don't need an immersion blender. You don't need a food processor. I think I had this for sale at our yard sale for $5 or $6. My son saw it. He's 6 years old, and he said, "Mom, I want to keep that." And I'm so glad I had it this morning to be able to do this in my pot without setting up something else or making noise to bother anybody else. Okay, so we are ready to can. This is cooked down. It's nice and thick, very dark from all of the seasoning. The jars are hot. The lids and bands are hot. We're going to fill them up We're going to leave about a 1/2 inch of headspace, so just above the collar of each jar. Clean the tops off. Make sure that there's nothing on them at all with fresh hot water. And in the canner they go for 10 minutes. Okay, so everything's in the canner. We're just going to set our timer for 10 minutes and we're going to pull these out and enjoy later today and all winter long. Okay, everyone, I got my apple butters all out and cooling. We'll just be listening for that ping ping noise to make sure that they are sealed, and these will go marked and in the pantry. As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.